Now what do? Senator McKenzie.
Thank you. Well, it is with a heavy heart that I rise today. Budget week, when the whole nation should be grateful for a government and a Prime Minister who said he'd govern for all Australians. But it turns out, if you don't live in inner-city Melbourne, inner-city Sydney or Brisbane, he doesn't govern for you. Because last week we heard that the Inland Rail project, a corridor of commerce connecting Melbourne to Brisbane, had been cancelled halfway. Tracks stopped at Parkes. This is a nation-building project over a century in the making, been on the planning book since John Anderson was in Parliament. It was a project that the Prime Minister, when he was Infrastructure Minister, championed. He even said it was critical to the productivity agenda, such as it was, for the Gillard government. Fast forward, there was no complaints about Inland Rail as it was designed, planned, land acquired, budget provisions made, agreements with state and territory governments. Absolutely. And the minister, chortling, scoffing behind me, knows that their hands are very dirty on this project, because the Prime Minister, who prides himself on being a Prime Minister, an infrastructure Prime Minister, has instead shafted this project, shafted the communities and exporters and farmers and regional capitals along this route to buy political capital in my home state of Victoria and try and shore up the fortunes of the Premier Jacinta Allen by investing in the suburban rail loop. A project, I might add, that should actually be on the budget statement of risks, given that it is signing up state and Commonwealth governments to a project that's going to cost in today's dollars in excess of $216 billion, let alone by 2035 when it's looking to have its first passenger. This week we had mayors from right up and down this rail loop, the Inland Rail, come to Canberra and tell us of the millions of dollars of small business investment, private capital invested in their communities, with their construction workers and businesses gearing up, employing staff, skilling staff, purchasing kit to participate in a decadal rollout of this project, that are now in limbo, that are now left holding the can for a Labor government that's left them reeling. And that was the evidence we had yesterday when mayors stood up and spoke not just about the private investment that had been made in these regional communities. The National Farmers Federation stood beside us talking about the great potential that this project had for our primary producers, for our mining and resources sector, through Western New South Wales, Queensland and Victoria. That is now dashed because it's literally a railway to nowhere. A railway to nowhere that has already cost in excess of tens of billions of dollars of taxpayers' money for no return. But it was also the local council who have taken successive federal governments at their word that this was a project that, no matter who was in power, was going to be completed. Coalition, Labor, Coalition, Labor, and now Labor saying no more. So we have tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars in some cases, where industry precincts have been built in these regional capitals, seeking to not just increase population but gross regional product of these communities for decades to come. They've got a great vision of what's possible in their communities, and it's a pity this government refuses to back them. And that brings me to the third issue with the cancellation of this project. In my shadow portfolio of infrastructure, it is very rarely, in fact, I would struggle to think of an example of the minister that announces a nation-building infrastructure project is ever going to be the minister that cuts the ribbon on the opening day. Probably won't even be the same side of politics that gets to do that. But because parties of government that used to mean something, the Labor Party, the Liberal Party and the National Party, we knew that if we had a bipartisan approach to these nation-building infrastructure projects, that we all were signed up to the deal. And this was one of these projects. By tearing up its commitment, the Labor Party has now put a sovereign risk question over any subsequent commitment from future governments on nation-building decadal projects such as the Inland Rail. It will be very, very difficult to take to the bank, take to the board of private investors, of other regional councils, of inner-city councils, the commitment of a federal government that they're going to stay the course on any given infrastructure project, given the Labor Party has said this one's not for us. I think what makes it more galling for rural and regional Australians that saw the potential of this, turning that trip from Melbourne to Brisbane, instead of being, days on the back of a truck, into literally a 24-hour trip, taking over 200,000 heavy vehicles off our freight network between Brisbane and Melbourne and surrounds. The safety and efficiency of that move alone was driving productivity. But, 750,000 tonnes a year of carbon emissions reduced come 2050. That's now gone as well. We know productivity is going backwards under this government. We know they held a roundtable last year, which we're yet to see any outcomes from, and this budget does not give this economy or our people any hope. But this was a project that was going to deliver efficiencies and to the freight task. And you don't need to talk to boffins. You actually just need to get out on the ground to talk to the truckies, to talk to the farmers, the manufacturers, the small businesses involved in this project, to know what that benefit was going to be. And yet, for political purposes, this Prime Minister did this. If you ever wondered what 25-odd years in this place can do to you, it can make you a tactical master. So Anthony Albanese is very, very clever because he has actually chosen to abandon the productive side and communities of our economy to invest in the political necessity he needs and his political movement needs, the Labor Party, in Victoria. And you'll never see a bolder case than this cancellation. We were looking forward to Catherine King actually getting the Beveridge to Parkes piece done and then heading north of North Star, where the stop sign is right now on the track, because we had a change of government in Queensland to a Liberal National Party state government who could also see the benefits of this project, unlike the Palaszczuk Miles Labor government who refused to partner and get the work done. When you want to know what the impact of the rollout of this project has been, and the Acting Deputy President will know this, he's chaired a committee inquiry into this project. There have been farmers right up and down the Inland Rail route who've had to go into negotiations about selling parcels and parts of their property, making it access arrangements for construction crews. These negotiations often have taken years and have caused a lot of heartache. But they did it knowing it was in the national interest. And of course they didn't do it for free. But for that now to be unrealised, I think says everything you need to know about the Labor Party. We know that the independent review done by Kerry Schott priced the increase for construction of the Inland Rail at $31 billion. When you asked the Department of Infrastructure how those figures were arrived at, they were met with blank stares. The actual micro detail of how that $31 billion figure was arrived at is not public. Neither is the ASIL Allen report that the minister has used to cancel this project. If this was not for political reasons, then put the report on the table so at very least the communities that are paying the price of this government's decision can actually understand that, yeah, sure, it is increased to $45 billion. You are telling the truth this time. But right now there is no comfort in that.
It being 12:15.
Leave to
Yep. Okay. It being 12:15, we shall now proceed to government business.